Let's move to the world of sports, something I know absolutely nothing about, but some very compelling sports stories this weekend in the world of sports. I want to touch on a couple of them and get deeper into one specifically. One is in college sports, one is in ladies golf, and the other one is in the NFL. And the one in college sports, Syracuse and Pittsburgh have decided that they are going to join the Big East. The ACC. They were in the Big East, Syracuse, of course. After the ACC made a surprise move into the conference realignment shuffle, the spotlight now shifts back to the Big 12. The region's governing powerhouses, Oklahoma and Texas, are set to hold meetings 2 hours apart this afternoon to discuss their conference affiliations. Now, think about what's going on here in college football. If you grew up watching college sports, specifically football and basketball, the ones that are covered the most, the Final Four, and also the Bowl Championship Series, and what were the legendary bowls. It was all about the Pac-10 versus the Big 10. It was all about the Big 12, the ACC, the SEC. Now, when the legendary conferences start to take schools from other places and jump in, it's all about Monday, as Christy Dosh talks with us on Sports Buzz here on the Pulse Network every Thursday at 10:30 in her Sports Biz Miz on TPN. I encourage you to check Christy Dosh out. When you see this story and you see that Syracuse and Pitt are deciding to join the ACC, my first thought is that Kyle, your SEC powerhouse, now may have some competition down there for some of the really good athletes when some of the major schools join. That's my first thought. You agree or disagree? You deny? Yeah, but the SEC has always gotten the best athletes, is my point.
Yeah. I don't think that the ACC is really going to make a stink. I think this is going to be more impressive for basketball. I think that basketball is going to be insane if you're adding Syracuse and Pittsburgh to the league that already has noted North Carolina and Duke. It's going to be ridiculous. But the more important thing is ACC, I thought we were done. I was pretty much planning on being an SEC school, Florida State alumni, so I love them. But the SEC, I thought I was very surprised that ACC made this move, and especially because you thought Big East adding TCU, they weren't going to let themselves go by the wayside. But there's a whole question now: where does TCU go? Where's Texas? Where's Oklahoma? It's going to be a new story that college is going to be talking about for a while coming up.
My final thought on that quick story about that is that, especially someone grew up watching the legendary conferences, I can't keep them straight anymore. I just can't keep them. I don't want to keep them straight anymore. By the time I figure out when Pitt and Syracuse join the ACC that they're in the ACC, they'll have gotten a better deal and be moving to another conference, probably back to the Big East. Syracuse and Pitt, to me, will always be Big East teams. BC will always be a Big East team. It's just the way it is. All right, moving on to another sports story. Sports prodigies, we've seen a ton of them. Kids that shoot up, and we know about them before they even reach the professional level. I'm old enough to remember when a 16-year-old Bobby Orr, before the internet, before cable television, was coming and was the next coming for the Bruins in the late 60s. And he lived up to it. Wayne Gretzky. Hockey people knew about Wayne Gretzky before he even showed up, and that again was before the internet. We all know about Tiger Woods and his ascension. Tiger Woods was on The Tonight Show when he was and Merv Griffin when he was younger than 10. And you knew he was coming, and he lived up to it, and then he lived down to it. Michelle Wie on the LPGA Tour. We had a very interesting story this weekend that you might have missed out of Prattville, Alabama. And what makes this story interesting to me is those child prodigies, when they get to the pro, rarely succeed right away. Tiger Woods was one of them that did. Michelle Wie paid her dues. Well, this young lady named Lexi Thompson. And this weekend in Prattville, Alabama, at the LPGA event in Navistar, the Navistar LPGA Classic in Prattville, Alabama, the 16-year-old Lexi Thompson became the youngest winner ever of an LPGA event. And as this story by Karen Krause in the New York Times says, it's not often that golf prodigies fulfill their promise so quickly. She points out that Michelle Wie qualified for her first LPGA Tour event when she was 12 but did not win her first tour title until 8 years later. At 16, Tiger Woods had won 2 U.S. Junior Amateur Championships, one of them right here in Massachusetts, but he did not win his first PGA Tour event until he was 20, so that was 4 years. So this 16-year-old young woman, Lexi Thompson, won her first event qualifying. Her quote, "I just went into every tournament wanting to win." She fully expected to make history 5 months ago when she took a share lead in the final round of the Avnet LPGA Classic in Mobile, Alabama, only to finish 19th. But she wins in one of her first tournaments, and her dad, here's the best part, her dad is her caddy in this. And his quote afterwards says, "It's an unbelievable feeling to know that people are cheering for your kid like that. And you're there to watch it as your caddy." 16-year-old Lexi Thompson. People talking about her on Twitter. The Thompsons are Florida residents. She had a $195,000 winner's check at 16 years old. Think she's buying a car? Does she have a car yet? My 15-year-old daughter wants a car. I made a deal with her a long time ago. I was clever about this, though. She was about 12. She shot up. She had a growth spurt. She's about this tall now. She said, "Dad, I'm going to get taller than you." And I said, "When you do, I'll buy you a car." But here's the thing. My parents and my wife's parents are all jockeys. I knew she wasn't going to grow anymore. She hasn't grown in about 4 years since this, so she's not getting a car. She's got to work for it, like everybody else. All right, and the biggest sports story, the one I want to focus on this weekend, was the return of Michael Vick to Atlanta. Michael Vick, of course, plays for the Philadelphia Eagles. If you're a sports fan, you know the story. He served his time in prison after being the orchestrator behind a dogfighting ring. There are people to this day that still hate Michael Vick, but there were highs and lows and an injury for Michael Vick when he came back to Atlanta in a game that the Atlanta Falcons, a very exciting game, by the way, won 35-31. Michael Vick was not around in the end to see it happen. The Atlanta Falcons saw the Michael Vick that they saw for a lot of years as their quarterback in Atlanta. They saw the guy who did a lot of great things, won a lot of football games, but they saw the guy who was a much more polished quarterback. He threw for 2 touchdowns in this game. He led his team, but he also made a big mistake like this at a fumble late in the second quarter, right before halftime, as Philly was going in to score to up its lead, that gave Atlanta the chance to go in and score. And then late in the game, Michael Vick with another fumble running around while he's carrying the ball like a loaf of bread. His return to Atlanta was marked by much controversy. It was also marked by a lot of cheers from the Atlanta fans that cheered for Vick for many years while he was there. He left the game with a concussion. When he went to the game, his status, as you can see in the headline, is in doubt for next week's game with the Giants, the home opener for the Eagles. Eagles are now 1-1 after the Falcons won this game. But Michael Vick left the game with a concussion. He was spitting up blood in the locker room. He was not around in the end to see what happened. And as Rob Ford, columnist at Philly.com, writes, when the Eagles offense took the field in the Georgia Dome Sunday night, Michael Vick, there was no mistaking the reception from Michael Vick. Maybe there were a few cheers from loyalists who remember the best of times, but the cascading boos overwhelmed them. So there were many more boos than cheers. The question heading into the game was, which Michael Vick were they booing? Was it the one who left the city in disgrace in 2007 or the one as an opponent who came in now? To me, it was a combination of both. It was a signature event in the NFL. It was the Sunday night game on NBC last night, and it was a loss for Michael Vick on the field. Be interested to hear Michael Vick's comments over the next couple weeks and to see how he was received and what he did. He did not acknowledge the cheers or the boos. When he left, he was replaced by Mike Kafka for the dream team that acquired Vince Young from the Tennessee Titans as their backup, but Vince Young wasn't ready. And again, the Eagles lost the game 35-31, a very exciting game to the Atlanta Falcons and Matt Ryan.